All right, so after I left the food city, I got in my car and this guy came up that you guys are seeing on the screen. You guys are going to see this guy because I'd never heard of him before this morning. He's got a pretty healthy following at 300,000 subscribers and probably makes a decent amount of money. The guy that I was watching before this was also along the same lines, talking about how toxic the world that we live in is, and how as soon as you start becoming successful, there's going to people that are going to be jealous of you and of your success. And so, as a person that's up and coming on YouTube and hope to get up to these kinds of numbers with my channel, there's going to have to be a lot of people that don't get to come along for that ride. A lot of people on the channel, a lot of people that I kind of know in real life. There's going to be, as I like to call them, casualties. And that's okay because not everyone can come along for the ride. And it's just the way that it is. It's not that it's bad, it's just the way that things are. And so the main takeaway that I took away from Denmo's video is that 50% of men aged 18 to 24 have never approached a woman. I would say that statistic is very high. I see my own Gen Zeros with their mushroom, or excuse me, with their broccoli haircuts, and these guys are never, ever going to date. Like, I've seen the exact behavior over the past 3 years, and they are odd to the point where women would never tolerate these guys in any conceivable way. Not only is their personality completely flawed, but they've been alone for so long that, just like myself, I don't even feel human anymore. And I haven't felt human in a very long time. And I've mentioned this before, but the reason why I got a psychology degree is because I don't feel human. 70% of men haven't approached a woman in the past year. I would say that's closer to 90 to 95%. I'm at a gym twice a day for at least 2 hours, 7 days a week. Do you think I'm seeing men approaching women at the only place uh, where I go to see more than a couple people at a time? No. I've been at the same gym for 7 years. I've been in the gym for more than 20 plus years every day. I'm a gym rat, and I've said that before. You guys see my shorts. I'm not kidding around. The gym's a big part of my life. And when you don't see people approaching people there, when you don't see people talking to each other there, when you don't see anyone socializing, you know society's completely messed up. The front desk girl, I got to see her today for the last time as the gym isn't doing well and they're shifting her position closer to her own house after taking away shifts from her to give to people who have more seniority. So I'm not even going to see that person anymore. And it's okay. I mean, if we wanted to socialize, she has my phone number, I have her phone number, and it's something that we haven't done. This person who I had to kick out of my life last night, um, it's been 9 months since the last time we went to go do anything, and you kind of just like ask this person, it's like, "Where? What are you talking about?" And then they just kind of look at you like, "Well, if I lose you, then I don't have someone that's going to take me to the airport. I don't have someone who's going to give me a couple bucks when I need money." Thank God my paycheck went into my bank account this morning because it was getting ugly financially. And they usually do that if your paycheck's close enough to Christmas, where they just give it to you a day early. It was finally nice to look in my bank account and see, like, hey, look, there's money in your bank account from your paycheck, not, not whatever was going on in there. Like I've told you guys before, YouTube only pays you once a month. I have no idea why they've gotten away with this model, but thank God I made it over the hump. Anyhow, moving on to more of what this Denmo talked about, is I've felt this my entire life, and I know a lot of men. And again, this channel is a channel that's designed for men. This I don't know why there are women here. So for a lot of us men, we're born to a Susie Rotten Crotch that didn't need us, that didn't want us, and that told us from day one that you're not welcome here, even though she brought you into this world. So even at birth, we get the great rejection from women. I was never a wanted child in my life, and I was reminded that of every single day of my entire life. We wish you weren't born, millennial steam. I heard it from the moment I came out to the last time I saw that horrid woman that I call my mother. And so, right from the get go, you feel like you have no place in the world. Of course, that child's going to spend the rest of their life suffering and hating and full of malcontent and bitterness. Because the thing that you were supposed to have as a child never happened. So that means right off the bat, no family. What does that mean? You don't know how to socialize. You don't know how to act in groups. You don't even speak the freaking language. No friends. How are you supposed to meet people when you don't speak the same language as the other people around you? I had to spend 3 years. Actually, I spent nearly into sixth grade just being in an isolated classroom with a teacher that was showing me how to speak the language. So, of course, you don't grow up with anyone. You spend your entire elementary years not knowing anyone other than your ESL teacher, which is just a generic white girl that went to college to learn Castilian Spanish, and you can barely communicate with them. So you get to college, and you have no meaningful connections to that point in your life. What's supposed to happen next? Total and complete social failure. And that's what happened to me. As soon as I got to college, my psychological problems flared up like you wouldn't believe. I was seeing a psychologist regularly from the age of 16, probably onward, for the rest of my life. In fact, 10 years after that, after I initially saw my psychologist, he sent me a letter very randomly, almost to the day, 10 years after I met him. And he said, "Sorry, Millennial Steam, but I've got to go to another university. I'm moving to Oregon because they've offered me a lot more money. Good luck with the rest of your life." Never heard from him again. I guess I should be thankful that he at least told me that he was gone, but that's how broken I was. That 10 years later, this man remembered this 16-year-old kid who came into his office a broken piece of garbage beyond repair. That's what Millennial Steam is, a broken piece of trash. So, yesterday reminded me of how disconnected I am from the entire world. I just wanted the day to go away because there's no fixing what's wrong with me. You create something like me and then you wonder why it doesn't function. I spent 678 days locked away in this tiny room. That you think a person isn't damaged, lock them away for that extended amount of time. That lang excuse me, that long term of locking someone away in isolation in a solitary confinement prison cell, you think that's repairable? Absolutely not. And let's just say I wasn't doing great before that. It was one of those you didn't realize it was happening. When they told us that we couldn't go outside and everything closed, you didn't know how long it was going on. But slowly, day in, day out, I remember the madness going on in my head. All I could do was look out the window of my kitchen every single day for 678 days straight. Of all that happened during that time was I watched the sun come up and I watched the sun go down. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. As I got closer and closer towards the end, I thought I was going completely insane. And then my money ran out. And so before I started this job, I was just 2 weeks from going homeless, which was 3 years ago. As I had my last homeless scare, as I saw the days coming to an end. November 1st came and there was no money for rent. And I knew it was going to be close before I got my next paycheck so I could keep myself from being thrown out on the street. And I saw a lot of my neighbors here in this apartment all get evicted, and God only knows where they are now. Also, during that time, we were deeply informed of how disposable and essential we were. It was the ultimate joke at that time, as food workers were basically told that you can't work from home. 44% of unemployment claims were denied. And that's the number that they tell us. That's the number that they advertise. God only knows how many other people suffered the indignity of not being able to find any place to work. Those 678 days weren't just spent sitting here not knowing what was going to happen. They were spent sending out application after application, 5 applications to get my current job, because they just told me that I wasn't a good fit for the position. But every few weeks they reposted the position because they couldn't find anyone desperate enough. That's also what the pandemic showed us about food workers, that they had to be sufficiently desperate enough to know that they were going to be the people that were going to be sacrificed, and they were. And I walked into the Kroger's every week and to get my food still, and you looked around and it's like, where's so and so? Oh, by the way, they don't want us telling anyone that we're sick. If you're sick, keep it to yourself. That's really what it came down to in that store. If you're sick, keep it to yourself, because they just didn't have anyone to work at that time. And then when everything opened back up, look what happened. The economy's been destroyed. The economy, the job economy in America is a mushroom cloud. I don't care what those fancy statistics say, there's no such thing as an unemployment rate of 4%. If 1 in 3 men have given up on traditional work because they simply don't see the point, the desperation that used to exist in men is gone. And a lot of it has to do with those statistics. 50% of men aged 18 to 24 haven't approached a woman. 50% of men have no interest in working because they don't have any desire, any reason. The current jobs don't pay enough for you to have anything. Why would someone work if they're not going to have anything? The philosophical gamer preaches this thing all day long on his channel. Don't work, Gen Z. Everyone, don't work. It's not worth it to work at these pathetic wages. And we all know it's true, but we also get that little rumble in our stomach every once in a while that tells us that we don't like to work. We don't like to have nothing in our lives. We don't like to know that our hourly job will never lead to anywhere good. Home ownership, never. Decent car, not a chance. Plenty of bus rides in your future, and the humiliation of not only seeing yourself fail, of having to look at yourself in the mirror every morning and know that you're a loser. I wake up every morning and call myself a loser. This world was never set up for people like me to win. And when jobs went remote for the right people, we knew that society definitely had people who it favored over other people. Even at my current job, they let all the workers just grab the computer off their desk and go home and work because the corporation didn't want to lose money. It didn't care whether or not you were disposable. You know what was essential during that time? Profits over people. That's always been the way it is. If they have to have you do your job remote, and then suddenly, like, the return to work mandates are all over the country, people don't want to come back to those toxic work environments. We don't like each other at all. And that's really what society has shown us during the time after the pandemic. We don't like each other. The phony smile that we put on to talk to our neighbor, our coworker, or our boss is all phony. And as I was watching that video this morning, driving to Food City, I was like, you know what? This guy's right. We don't like each other. Every interaction is phony. And if you're not going to be phony nice, you're not going to have a job. Like that cashier at Kroger's last week who was being written up because she just wasn't nice enough. She didn't smile enough. And I've seen this with other people. Salon Girl number 2 has had the same conversation with her management so many times that every time I see her, I just look at her like, I know you don't want to be here. She's introverted. She's odd. She's small. She doesn't really know what to say. She's dirt poor. Oh my God. I've very rarely met someone who was that dirt poor. 16 dollars an hour times 25 hours a week, and she just looks wretchedly poor. And looking poor means that you're already reached the level where it's probably not going to be possible for her to fix the trajectory of where her life is going. She's early 20s. She has no career, no education, family from the worst part of America, the Rust Belt. She's actually there now visiting her biological father. But I imagine that there isn't much connection. She just went because he bought her an airplane ticket to come home for Christmas. But aside from that, I've never sensed that she has any bond to any family member. She especially doesn't like her mother. When she moved out of her mother's house in the last 6 months, she moved quietly in the sense that she started moving little bits and pieces of her room. And then when her mother was at work, she finally moved her bed and then didn't tell her mother where she moved. And that's not the positive, fun relationship you have with your family. It's, I need to get the hell out of here. And for me, that end to my relationship with my family ended very abruptly. She just sold the house and then never told me where she went. Never saw or heard or seen anything else. That's the kind of toxic relationship most of us bastard children are going to have with the people that never wanted us in the first place. So that's the word that I wanted to end this with. The trash. The part I am realizing is that not only is there a lot of trash in our society, not only is Johnny Sixpack and Susie Rotten Crotch trash, they live without meaning. And they never will have meaning. Because we are part of the growing society that has become almost a meme. We interact we interact with each other in very simple terms. What we tell each other are constant lies because no one cares whether or not you're okay. Asking someone, it's like, hey, how's it going? You don't care how it's going. Hey, how's the family? You don't care. I mean, I've had people ask me, hey, how's your family? How are your kids? And I'm like, looking at them, obviously, you know nothing about who I am or what I do or anything. And when people ask me, hey, how's your career going? I just tell them I'm unemployed. It's just nothing but lies. We just lie to each other about how great we're doing, or we lie to each other about how great we're not doing. Because the last thing that you want is for that person to form a judgment about who you are. In fact, I've had that judgment following me around the gym for the past 3 years. There was a girl that I talked to. Her name was Kimberly. And we got along great until she found out that I didn't have a job. And suddenly, I was the biggest loser she's ever met. Just a couple of days ago, we were walking towards each other in the gym, and she decided to walk all the way around the gym because she hates losers. She can't stand people who don't try. To her, the idea of not having a job was the equivalent of not being alive. Because, as she said, and to quote, I would rather take any job, including working at Taco Bell or even selling my rear, rather than not having a job. And that's the disgust society has for poor people. We don't like them. We don't want them in our society. And if they can stay invisible and out of the way, that's the way we prefer it. This is why the holiday season to me is so disgusting. Because we live with all of these lies about how great it is, how much we enjoy everything around us, when the reality is that most of us don't enjoy any aspect of being alive. I don't like getting up in the morning. I don't like going to Evil Corp. I don't like coming home to this trashy apartment and this is the only thing I can afford to live in. Nothing about my life or any connection that I've ever had in my entire life has any meaning, and never will. It's just that we like to lie to each other so that our society continues to function. Could you imagine if the mainstream media came out and told you how screwed you really were every single day? How much would you like that critique of your life that sucks because of where you live and what you drive? That's what the media would come out here to tell you. Instead, what were two of the stories that I saw yesterday were based on the lottery. I was looking at CNN. It's like, why are there two stories on the lottery in here? How does that have any meaning to Johnny Sixpack or Susie Rottencrotch? But before you run over and get the rope or run on into oncoming traffic, remember, this channel is about making fun of being poor, making fun of poor people, because that's all this really is. I mean, at the end of the day, Johnny Sixpack is going to watch Pro Ball while he drinks his Pro beer and he bangs Susie Rottencrotch behind the Taco Bell. That's life. That encompasses all of life. That's all poor people's lives. That's it. Because pro lives matter. I mean, to some extent. Rich people would tell you that they don't, but they love exploiting you. They'd much rather make you prison labor than have to pay you something else. But the way that it is, it's never going to get any better. And the reason for that is we've all come to accept the lie that this is the way things are and this is the way that things will always stay. So keep lying to everyone, proletariat. We're doing great.